Prime Minister, I offer you my very warm...
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining me in this jam-packed room.
Jack Lucas and his first mate Shane Robson were still in shock this morning as they gave their version of events to Water Police.
I know we're still both alive and that's the main thing. And yeah, happy to be on land actually.
The Queensland pair's boating adventure from Cairns to the New South Wales south coast became a misadventure 4 nautical miles off Broughton Island.
About 4 o'clock in the morning, coming out mainly on instruments. And I've just clipped the last bombie just as we left the bay. We were stuck there for 5 or 10 minutes rolling around.
Jack was behind the wheel and he asked me to go and make him a coffee, and I was down in the kitchen making the coffee while this all happened.
After managing to get the 18-metre vessel off the rocks, Jack, who's got 70 years' experience at sea, tried to get to Nelson Bay, but he quickly realised the old fishing boat wasn't going anywhere.
The water got on top of us. It was rising slowly, but that wasn't the major problem. The major problem was the water got and cut out our main alternator.
After issuing a mayday call, Jack escaped in a life raft and watched the boat he'd spent 20 years restoring sink.
So tell us what that was like to watch a boat that you've had for 20 years go down.
No, you can't describe it. You can't describe it.
Water Police say skippers come unstuck on the reef around Broughton Island quite often and are warning them to be careful in the area.
If you're not familiar with the area, yeah, you can come into a lot of problems. We've had other vessels that have been tipped over there on bommies and been capsized or hit reefs.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
After years of neglect, the old Wonji power station is a little worse for wear, but that could soon change. Today, the state government rezoned the land for residential and mixed-use purposes, meaning its owner, Queensland-based developer Ian McDonald, can finally redevelop the site.
So this is a great opportunity for the developer to come along and do what he has said has been his passion, to save the Wonji power station building and to make a really good use of it for the local community.
Mr McDonald bought the site more than a decade ago and wants to transform it into a residential and retail hub, complete with a hotel and cinema complex. But until now, contamination and heritage issues, along with reams of bureaucratic red tape, have stalled that dream. The power station was decommissioned around 20 years ago, and since then the site has sat idle. Eventually, it's anticipated the main building will house around 150 apartments, as well as commercial and retail space. The rezoning also means up to 60 villas can be built over the 22.5 hectare site.
I understand he's still keen to do that, but there's no time frame. But the site itself is just so important, not just for the area around Wonji, but also for the city.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. It was the announcement the University of Newcastle has been waiting on for years. The money will go towards creating the Newcastle Institute of Energy and Resources, together with $10 million from the university and $2.2 million from the state government. Ms Grierson says the university had to fight for the funding.
They have put together a very convincing proposal which has international potential around sustainability.
The institute will operate out of the former BHP Billiton Newcastle Technology Centre and focus on energy and mineral processing.
We've got research centres related to new energy in terms of clean coal technologies and other sorts of alternative energy, geothermal and wind energy. We've got a group looking at particle processing.
Once the building's extended and refurbished, 300 researchers will be based there, with the aim of making the institute world-class.
No other university in Australia has the potential to be able to take things from the laboratory, scaled up to pilot size for testing and then taken out into industry for commercial use.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
That was a fail.
Heavy strapping and a pain-killing injection could only do so much for Isaac de Gois today. While desperate to be past fit, it was clear the broken bone in his wrist proved too much.
At first I was confident of Isaac making it. I was quite surprised actually when he said it didn't feel any good.
It means Matt Hilder will start at hooker, with captain Kurt Gidley also expected to play a role in the dummy half spot during Sunday's match. It was their last game against the Gold Coast that Knights players had to relive today. A harsh reminder that they could have done without.
It still hurts watching the footage there today of that game. You just look and go, how did we lose that game? They probably didn't turn up with the right attitude to play and we just let them off the hook.
That's not an option this weekend, and Newcastle knows where it needs to attack.
We've had a look at their side and they're a bit, vulnerable in spots on the edges there, so I think we'll be going at them that way.
Following a thrilling win against the Eels on Monday, the side's confidence has returned, but it'll need more than that to really turn its season around.
We need to have the same sort of effort, but couple that with some execution and make sure we play with some smarts.
And the confirmation overnight that cowboy Antonio Kafusi is heading to the club has been another big boost. He'll arrive in Newcastle next week in time for the Knights' following match against the Sharks.
We believe he's still got plenty of good footy in front of him, being sort of 25 at the moment, and we think that he's going to be a good fit for our club.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. It was 20 years ago, but Trevor Gallagher remembers it all too well when he and his then under-14 teammates won the National Championship, the last team from Newcastle to do so. Tomorrow night, the majority of that side will feature at a big Newcastle basketball reunion.
When I'm icing down at the end of a game, it feels like 20 years. But yeah, look, it was great to be part of that back then, and it's great now to sort of, after a bit of a break, be still playing and having a good time.
All 5 senior Hunters teams are playing at Broadmeadow tomorrow night, culminating with the ABA men's clash against the Sydney Comets. The visitors are coming off a loss to Maitland, a result the Hunters are keen to impose again for more reasons than one.
Maitland have just snuck ahead of us on the ladder now, so we're hungry to get back in front of them and get a really competitive vibe for the Kibble Malin Cup next Saturday as well.
In Newcastle Rugby League, Maitland and Cessnock are looking to retain their top 2 spots on the ladder tomorrow, while on Sunday it's 3rd versus 4th, with Wyong heading to West's home ground. Maitland goes to Merriweather tomorrow in Newcastle and Hunter Rugby Union's match of the round, hoping to end the Greens' unbeaten run this season. While all 4 NBN Football League games are on Sunday, with Western looking to extend its good run against Valentine. The Phoenix, though, was the last side to beat the Bears this season.
Her commitment has always been a strong one to this region. She's always seen innovation and research and education as the basis for our future progress and the diversification of our economy.
The sheer amount of detail in each sculpture is, well, almost frightening. Artists from across Australia have spent months painstakingly turning trash into creative treasures, and their efforts are on display in Newcastle this weekend.
The idea of it is to try and get people to recognise that what we do on the land impacts heavily on the beaches and the oceans.
Most of the pieces on Honeysuckle Boardwalk are made out of scrap metal, wire and auto parts. And boy, are they impressive.
I think they're really great.
It's wonderful.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, people put a lot of work into it.
The Mercedes car with ants is a real standout. And if you're wondering what's happened to the car's missing boot lid, well, this ant has it all the way over here. A dugong made out of garbage artist Sandy Walker collected on Australia Day rests on the Foreshores seawall. There's also a wind farm and a feathered dragon. Newcastle's Gary Boot is enjoying watching people appreciate his work.
That's the best buzz ever, to give people a bit of pleasure out of something so simple.
The Waste Not Want Not exhibition stretches from Honeysuckle to Nobby's Beach, but could one day rival Sydney's Sculpture by the Sea.
Our grand plan is to go from Carrington all the way round to Bar Beach.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
With captain and chief playmaker Scott Prince already sidelined with a hamstring tear, the Titans were sweating on the availability of Preston Campbell. Troubled by a bruised heel, he gave the thumbs up today for tomorrow's game.
Pull up good. I think I'll be right to play. I make sure that I'm at least 100% right to go into the game.
With Luke Bailey also cleared, it was just the news the home side wanted on match eve against a desperate Newcastle.
I'm not sure whether I'm speaking too early. They sort of play for their season, I think.
Closer to home and in Newcastle Rugby League, Maitland has continued its march towards the minor premiership, this time against Curry. After Vern Moena Mason's effort, Willie Paleo crossed. While Matt Johnson's solo effort just before the break really broke the Bulldogs' spirit, the Pumpkin Pickers racked up win number 8 for the season.
It's been a really good week. It's not just the on-track things that have been going well. It's been overall a really great experience.
I'm driving for a good trainer tonight with a horse that's got good form, so hopefully with a bit of luck it'll be up there.
Now it's up to the new owners.
Well, looking down that way, that's an absolute $1 million view.
It was all aboard a very special 275 for a trip down memory lane.
The bus is doing a tour over the tram routes of Newcastle, and it'll take most of the day to do that.
Passengers from across New South Wales journeyed to Newcastle for the tour to commemorate the end of trams in the city 60 years ago, and the fond memories soon began to flow.
I used to come up here to Newcastle in 1947 was the first time to go on a tram tour in December 47.
When the cricket was on, we used to put a loudspeaker out the front of the shop, and as the trams were coming by, they would always stop so that the passengers could listen to the scores.
Not surprisingly, many on board believe light rail should make a comeback in Newcastle amidst controversy over cutting the city's rail line.
It would be a good transport system for Newcastle, yes, certainly would be, albeit in a very different form these days.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. It was a picture-perfect day on Newcastle Harbour, making it the ideal location for the end of today's Ski for Kids race. David Graziano took out the title.
Pretty tough out there, there's some big water, pretty windy.
18 teams set off from Manly this morning, some hanging on for up to 3.5 hours to complete the epic event. They're sure to be sore tomorrow. 12-year-old Chantel King was the youngest participant.
Yeah, pretty good, but I can't feel my feet.
You look like you've got a few blisters.
Yeah.
The fundraiser is the brainchild of Newcastle businessman Glenn Geary, who came in dead last. While it's not yet known how much the race netted, all money will be donated to Hunter Medical Research Institute to fund leukaemia research.
That's the most common cause of childhood cancers, so we're trying to do something to help the kiddies.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It's always hard leaving a successful side, but try leaving Wayne Bennett. Neville Costigan will do so for a second time in his NRL career, but he has his mentor's blessing.
I had a good talk to Wayne and before I made my decision, and you know he's pretty happy for me.
Part of the record-breaking Queensland side, 25-year-old Costigan agreed to a 3-year deal to join Newcastle from next season and reckons the side is building towards something big.
That's why I'm going to Newcastle, because I can see with the group of people they got there and the boys and the staff and that, I can see them getting close or winning a premiership.
An amazing start to the Wyong West match in Newcastle Rugby League with Roos winger John Gray bounding out of the blocks. He had a hat-trick by the 20-minute mark as the visitors threatened to run away with it. West, though, hit back in style, Steve Gordon giving AFL scouts something to consider. While Sam Wooden second had the Rosellas back in front, all before half-time.
This normally quiet street was the scene of shocking violence last night. Two brothers, 22-year-old Sam Willis and 29-year-old Luke Willis, gunned down. Neighbours say the younger brother, who lived at this Gammock Street property directly behind where he was shot in Windeyer Street, had received death threats and had both his car and fence vandalised in what police say has been a long simmering neighbourhood dispute.
It's very tragic, but why it's escalated to such a point in time where, we've had two males shot here in Mayfield, it just, you just can't sort of imagine why that's occurred.
Been going on for 18 months, maybe a bit longer. I hadn't realised that it had come to this sort of thing. It was all about noise and parties and very loud music.
Then, late yesterday, a window in the 22-year-old's home was smashed, the damage still clearly visible. Forensic police scoured both the victim's property and that of a man who's been charged with both murders.
We've located a small handgun at the scene last night, and until forensics and pathology complete their investigations, we're unsure whether that firearm was used in the shooting.
A 53-year-old man handed himself into Belmont Police Station at around 10 o'clock this morning. Police here have spent the day extensively interviewing him, trying to piece together exactly what happened. At 1 p.m, this ute believed to have been driven by the man was discovered a short distance from the station. Late this afternoon, the man was charged with 2 counts of murder and will appear before Newcastle Local Court tomorrow. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
At Lakeside Special School, the gates will remain open and parents are just as excited as the pupils.
Our children have special needs, obviously, and they're not going to fit one particular school system.
They've been through a number of months now with uncertainty about the whole structural change in how we deliver special education schools.
Lakeside has 36 students, all with different needs.
Josh has severe autism, so change is a real hard thing for him. So being able to stay at a school from K to 12 is paramount.
But not all parents are being shown the same love. The state government plans to merge 3 schools. Glendon will host kindy to year 4, Cameron Park years 5 to 8, the Hunter Orthopaedic Campus 9 to 12. The opposition believes it's all about saving money.
This is not about money, this is about providing a better level of service to our special needs students.
But those in the know have their doubts.
They said the parents had been asked and the parents weren't asked, they were told. And that was our big argument.
Well, I think all parents need to have a choice in where their children go to school, and I don't think we're any different to having special needs children. I don't think we are any different to any other children.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
A likeness of Mrs Macquarie, the wife of 19th century New South Wales Governor Lachlan Macquarie, was on hand for today's announcement that the James Fletcher site is to be preserved. It's been home to a mental health facility for 139 years and a government farm before that. But historians got a shock recently when they checked the paperwork.
When we double-checked, none of the site was heritage listed at all. We thought it was, much like a lot of people did. And so we then convened an emergency meeting with the Minister to say, look, please can we talk about this?
The Minister says she'll now push to have the site placed on the Heritage Register.
The intention is very much about keeping this site in public hands as a working health precinct, seeing health services continue to be delivered from James Fletcher, but understanding that there is a responsibility to preserve the heritage and historical significance of this site.
The convict wall at the western side of the site remains bolstered by temporary supports after being damaged in the June 2007 storm. Part of New Common Street has been closed for 3 years as a result, but the Lord Mayor says multi-million-dollar repairs are about to begin.
Council is contributing, Hunter New England Health are contributing, and we'll have the work underway fairly soon.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
This is one tough lesson, but the Jules primary kids know exactly how to work it out. Under the watchful eye of teachers, they've been skipping class and training for the State Aerobic Championships, and it's hard to keep it a secret from the parents when you end up winning so many gold.
We had 6 teams and 4 gold medals was not expected, so it was great.
Lucky you get marks for showing off. 11-year-old Emily Woodward won hands down.
Well, I came first for singles and first for open, and that's my team.
And the girls from Rutherford Primary are hardly feeling blue. They won the interpretive category at the titles. Today they showcase their achievements as the Hunter Schools Dance Festival swung into action.
It's to showcase the ability and skills of the kids in our schools, and especially showcase the excellence.
2,500 students all vying to stand out, and they take it very seriously.
It's about hell, so we're all in hell at the beginning and we try and escape to heaven.
Nash Wallace, NBN News.
Kurt Gidley's clubmates almost run out of words to describe their captain, and the man himself prefers his actions to do the talking. From sideline conversions to try-saving tackles, he hardly looked like a man under pressure to retain his job as Blue skipper as he led from the front against the Titans.
Fingers crossed I'll still be involved, so I still want to be a part of that game 3 and try and get some sort of win out of this series.
There's a difference in the game, to be honest. And look, if he's not New South Wales captain and fullback, I'm the worst judge in the world.
He's inspirational every week, and he's just he's the captain of the club and he should be captain of the state.
Jared Mullen had arguably his best game of the season, laying on 2 tries, including the match winner, as Newcastle claimed back-to-back victories for the first time this season. Set to enjoy a weekend off care of the bye, Ben Cross is at risk of missing the return match against the Sharks. He's been charged with contrary conduct after making contact with the referee.
They can get in the way sometimes, and if he was running sort of towards him, he can't get out of the way. There's not much he can do.
Back to work for almost everyone. Head coach Branko Kalina remains overseas until the end of the week, but by his return the Jets' playing roster may almost be complete. Efforts to secure Italian midfielder Marcello Fiorentini long-term are well advanced.
He trained prior to the break for a week or so and impressed everyone, so he's back again today, and I'm pretty sure within the next few days they'll hopefully figure everything out they need to figure out, and he'll be on board.
But it's a striker that they're really after. And although he wasn't at today's session, former Chinese international Zhang Xiao has the inside running.
If we can get it done by the end of this week, then we've got 21, 22 players to pick from for the Melbourne hard game, which is sort of a situation we haven't been in previous seasons.
That first trial is on July 8, while the following week the Jets will take on the best of the NBN Football League, including Western's Michael Ryan. Interestingly, only 3 players from the ladder leaders made the squad, including goalkeeper Tim Pratt. The news follows the Bears' last-minute win against Valentine yesterday, with Chris Gazzard's equaliser bettered only by the finish of Rog Macbeth as Western stretched its unbeaten run to 6. The Northern New South Wales select team also includes former National League star Troy Halpin and 4 from Hamilton Olympic. 2 Phoenix players are in, while Peter McPherson is one of 3 West Wallsend players also named.
Two young lives cut tragically short. Brothers Sam and Luke Willis were shot dead in a Mayfield street on Sunday night, allegedly by backfence neighbour Christopher Philippou. Police allege the victims and Philippou had been involved in an 18-month-long neighbourhood dispute over loud music. The community and those who knew the brothers remain in shock.
They're very nice. Young fellow, he's in his 20s. They always spoke or waved when they saw you.
Both men touched hundreds of young lives. 22-year-old Sam was a youth worker and university student, while older brother, 29-year-old Luke, was a Year 6 teacher who was adored by his students. Teachers here at Thornton Public School were too distraught to talk on camera about their colleague today, but did issue a statement saying the school was deeply saddened by the death of Luke Willis and that students were being offered counselling. One girl in Mr. Willis's class wrote on NBN's website, "He was the best teacher you could ever have. Our class had so much fun with him by making movies and playing games. It is really sad, and our class was crying because he won't be able to see the finished movies." The 53-year-old cleaner didn't appear in Newcastle local court today, and his lawyer, John Anthony, did not make an application for bail. Philippou's family left the court without speaking to the waiting media. He remains in police custody with his case adjourned until August. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
the poor and the vulnerable are the first ones to feel the effect of an economic downturn, and they're also the last ones to recover from it. And we believe that this situation with accommodation is reflective of that.
The Vintage currently uses 250 million litres of precious water each year to keep the course looking green. But within about 18 months, it'll be irrigated with recycled effluent. Taxpayers are funding a $48 million upgrade of the treatment works at Branxton, and the Vintage is chipping in towards a 12-kilometre pipeline to the golf course.
To be able to get a supply or a program in place where there is a guarantee of water in the future is a very important aspect to a project like the Vintage with a golf course of our standard.
Initially, there'll only be enough recycled water to supply the course, but 15 to 20 years into the future, as the population increases and more people get flushing, there could be enough to irrigate farms and vineyards.
Recycled water is part of the suite of programs that we're doing. We're going to hit water efficiency hard. We're really ramping up on water recycling, and we're also increasing supply, and Tilliger is the main plank in that.
The State Water Minister had the sprinklers going for a photo opportunity at the course today, but by the end of next year, the recycled water should be flowing for real. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The Jobs Expo was born out of a simple concept, matching job seekers with employers under the one roof. Today, more than 800 positions were up for grabs, each advertised on a jobs wall.
We're creating hundreds of jobs here in the Hunter. It's like a jobs supermarket. There's something for everyone here.
All job seekers had to do was walk up and meet their prospective employers.
The Hunter's doing really well, unemployment below 5%, never heard of that before, but there are still people out there needing assistance, looking for opportunities.
And there were plenty to be had, with organisations actively looking to recruit new staff.
It's been great. There's a lot of good candidates, a lot of people that are really interested in working, and yeah, look, we've had a great response so far today.
We have had a lot of interest. We've probably given out over 100 application forms.
Former Newcastle Knights front rower Paul Harrigan was the Expo's celebrity face.
As I said, I can't think of any more noble pursuit than helping people to get employment.
And the job applicants couldn't have been happier.
It's been great. You know, I've talked to about 8 people already. I've only been here for half an hour.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The International Children's Games has the potential to attract around 3,000 visitors to Lake Macquarie in January 2014. Kids aged 12 to 15 will arrive from more than 40 countries to compete in a range of sports, including track and field, swimming, golf, soccer and even BMX. Events will be held at a number of venues across the city, including the Hunter Regional Athletic Centre at Glendale and the Aquatic Centre at the Forum at the University of Newcastle. It won't attract as many athletes as the New South Wales Surf Lifesaving titles have in the past, but the exposure could prove priceless for Lake Macquarie.
So internationally it'll be obviously a much higher profile, but the benefits from tourism will be probably longer lasting because of the time period frame that we're talking about. We would expect that the value to the city of Lake Macquarie and the region will be in the millions.
However, the Games don't come cheap. The city will need to spend around $2 million to prepare. Council is already assuring ratepayers they won't be footing the bill.
We'll be looking for funding and support from a whole range of other organisations ranging from state and regional.
NBN News.
With ink on his arm and a blue jersey on his back, try telling Cade Snowden Game 3 means nothing.
Being someone who was always wanted to do this, play for New South Wales, I don't think I need anything else.
Cut from the Knights 2 years ago under then coach Brian Smith, Snowden's come back to haunt his former club in more ways than one. Earning a country call-up earlier this year, he impressed as a bloke who enjoys the hard stuff, and his aggression will be vital against the all-powerful Queenslanders. His biggest problem may be from those closest.
Mum and Dad, I think a lot of people coming down from Newcastle to come watch me.
They all want tickets?
Yeah, I do. I don't know how I'm going to get them all.
One thing's for sure, his club coach Ricky Stewart will remain close.
Ricky's really helped me my footy career ever since I moved down here. Him and all the coaching staff probably made me what I am today.
New captain Trent Barrett was quick to point out the man he replaced in that job.
Kurt Gidley's a terrific leader and a terrific bloke, and we need to help each other, and we will.
While at the Knights, Ben Cross will fight his contrary conduct charge for making contact with a referee at the League Judiciary tomorrow night. If he loses, he'll be suspended for a week. It was a moment when everyone held their breath. Matt Hall, clipping the water twice before his instincts, honed by years in the military, saved him from anything more serious than just a fright. Apart from dented pride and a plane needing work, it didn't scare the former RAF man a bit.
I've had 18 years of a culture where things go wrong and you debrief, you figure out what happened, you learn your lessons from it, then you keep going. You don't dwell on bad situations.
He's already dealt with plenty of those, with mechanical problems, weather, his near miss and a race suspension, all adding up to a year of despair, after it had promised so much. Finishing third in his rookie season, Hall had plans of flying even higher this time around.
Basically, this year's a disaster as far as that's concerned. We're just treating the rest of this year to get back on the horse, consolidate everything we've learnt, and just see how many points I can take off the leaders.
For now, it's about spending some rare time at home with family before turning his attention to racing in a month's time and planning for next year.
Get back in that race for the rest of the year and take some points off the leaders and let them know that I'm still a threat next year.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Another young life lost. Joshua Maynard was shot in the chest just after midnight at Links Drive in Raymond Terrace.
There appears to have been an altercation, a running altercation between two large groups of men, and the victim, of course, was connected with one of those groups.
Witnesses say a car was driving down the road when a group of around 10 intoxicated teenagers threw an iron bar at it. 5 men got out of the vehicle and during the resulting confrontation a shot was fired. The car then sped away.
I swear I heard the gunshot but I wasn't sure, but I didn't go out the front because that, and then a copper came a couple minutes later.
Mr Maynard died on the way to John Hunter Hospital. Friends say the Raymond Terrace man was a knockabout bloke who enjoyed motorbike riding.
He was really nice. When we were at school together, he was fine. Whenever I hear stories about him, he's a good kid, he's happy, he gets out, talks to people, he's nice.
Forensic officers gathered evidence at the scene with a machete thought to be among the items. Police also seized several cars. Residents here at Links Drive say they're not surprised by the shooting, as violence and brawls between teenage gangs is a regular occurrence. Some say it's so common that they're afraid to leave their homes after dark. Officers canvassed the scene this afternoon, speaking to numerous witnesses and neighbours. Line searches were also conducted, both in Links Drive and surrounding streets. Police believe they're closing the net on the gunman.
It's most likely that the person responsible may still be in the area, and again, I would just urge that person very strongly to come forward to explain fully what's gone on last night.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It was an attempt to generate some positive headlines, touring wards and announcing more beds for the John Hunter and Maitland hospitals. But instead, Labor's woeful poll result became the topic of conversation.
The poll that matters is the poll in March 2011.
Newcastle MP Jodie McKay and Maitland's Frank Terenzini sit in two of the state's tightest seats, with margins of just 1.2% and 2% respectively.
I've got the second most marginal seat in the state, and I've always said that I expect people to judge me on what I deliver for Newcastle.
Lord Mayor John Tate has already said he'll run again, and Miss McKay concedes waning support for Labor could affect her chances. And in a sign the government is worried about the seat, she was quick to list off some achievements.
We had a $94 million commitment to the courthouse, a new MRI machine for the Martyr. We've moved forward on the EOI for the university precinct. We've opened Nobbies.
As for today's announcements, $5.9 million will go to the John Hunter for 15 acute care beds and 1 for intensive care, while Maitland Hospital will receive 12 new beds. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Albert Lithgow is enjoying his holiday in the Hunter Valley today, having put the frustrating ordeal at Melbourne Airport behind him. Relatives say they ordered wheelchair assistance when they bought the Geelong grandfather's ticket, but when they got to the airport, there were no wheelchairs available to get him to check in, which he then missed by 3 minutes.
I was slow getting walking around, and they just said, "Oh, you can't get on." We just had to accept it. So I said, "Well, what the hell are we going to do?" She said, "Go home."
A few months shy of his 90th birthday, Mr Lithgow uses a walking stick to get around. He says the lift was also out of action at Tullamarine and there was no compassion from the check-in staff.
Oh, another plane leaving at 8:05 tonight, and we've got a flitch on that. But it cost you $80 to change over.
It wasn't that they were late or they mucked up, they were there quite early. It was the lack of the wheelchair lift out of access and things. I just think they could have bent the rules a little bit for 3 minutes.
After a 2.5-hour round trip by car to his Geelong home and back, he returned for the 8 o'clock flight, but had to wait 40 minutes for a wheelchair.
So I say there's no chair there, and both times.
Jetstar says it's investigating his claims. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
This was the mall in November 2008, clearly struggling with for lease signs dominating the strip. At the time, retailer Julie Hingst was one of about 20 to shut up shop and move out. After 14 years in the mall, she set up a new business at the Junction.
Less traffic through, people weren't coming into the city anymore.
Fast forward to the present and shoppers are flocking back.
From when I left 18 months ago, I would say it's trebled.
Ms Hingst is still operating her business at the Junction but has reopened in the mall, joining with 3 other retailers under the one roof.
GPT have done a lot of work in getting new people into the mall, and I think it looks really exciting. We're really confident.
She believes council's decision to reopen the strip to traffic has also helped. Ms Hingst hopes GPT will push ahead with its $600 million redevelopment. It's waiting on the state government to make a decision on the rail line. Local MP Jodie McKay now says the long-awaited results from the government scoping study were due in late June.
I definitely don't know what is in that report as yet, but I would expect that we will know what is in that report soon. I'm as frustrated as everyone or anyone in terms of the length of time that this is taking.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
they've been hanging out at the hospital praying and asking everybody to pray too.
Mate, it just goes to show, so like we are in a very dangerous sport, especially after what happened to Pat. You know, there was no one at fault. It was just one of those things that happen in racing, and you know, it's something we've got to deal with every day.
Turning a cowboy into a knight. It was, in many ways, a warm Newcastle welcome for Antonio Kafusi, not so in others.
Yeah, definitely I felt the cold as soon as I got off the plane, so you know, something I've got to get used to anyway.
He'll be here for 3 years, but Rick Stone wasted no time meeting his mid-season signing.
And I don't think we could have got any better credentialed player than Antonio Kafusi. You know, played for his country, played for his state, played in premiership winning teams.
And the club hopes the forward will make a big impact in the charge to the finals. The 25-year-old weighs in at 112 kilograms and stands 190 centimetres tall.
He brings some size to start with, absolutely. He's got some good leg speed, some good skill.
And we won't have to wait long to see it. Kafusi is set to play against the Sharks next week.
I'll be doing you know, the best I can to be you know, ready to go. You know, I'm definitely eligible to play, and you know, it's going to be hard to try to get in that team because I've, you know, come off 2 wins.
Maybe Ben Cross will make way. He's tonight trying to convince the NRL judiciary that this wasn't deliberate.
If he does get found guilty of contrary conduct, contact with the referee, he'll miss a week. So it's a fairly decent gamble.
Nat Wallace, NBN News. It's becoming an all too familiar and successful war cry. From the footy field to the bowling greens at Soldiers Point, those north of the border are cleaning up.
Far out, it's massive. Like, we were massive underdogs coming into this. New South Wales, 8 of the 12 players are in the Aussie team.
Including 19-year-old Natasha Van Eldik from Raymond Terrace. This 3-test series was her last chance to get her eye in ahead of October's Commonwealth Games.
The greens are a little different to over in India, but it's always a good practice.
And practice makes perfect. Just ask Noreen Snedden. The 62-year-old was making her New South Wales debut.
I'm the eldest in this team, you know, so. But I mean to say, it just goes to show it doesn't matter what your age is, you can still get there.
But the crowd didn't get its fairy tale ending. Queensland won 2-1.
It happens. It's just like the football, isn't it? It happens.
Go Queensland.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
It means we're making a difference, and Olivia wasn't just a loss to us. You know, our community at least is going to benefit from our experience and from her short life.
It was a drama-charged dawn, police pouncing on 3 houses in the Cessnock region at Curry and nearby Elrington. 2 men aged 47 and 39 were arrested, the latter alleged to be the chief supplier in a Hunter-based drug ring that stretched to Sydney. There, police were also out early, raiding houses at Marylands and Greystanes and arresting a 29-year-old man.
We have located significant amounts of drugs, cash and illegal weapons.
Amphetamines were the main haul along with cannabis. As yet, the quantity of drugs seized hasn't been tallied, but police say it's significant.
This will dismantle a significant drug criminal network in the Cessnock area. we've taken out a principal supplier, and the impact on the local community should be significant.
Those arrested face serious drugs charges. Today's raids were the culmination of a 7-month-long operation by Strike Force Tyso, the biggest bust to date under the recently established Central Hunter Drug Unit, and police say there are more to come.
To be honest with you, there are several various networks out there. We'll just continue our fight. This is resource-intensive work. It takes time, but we rely on community to provide us the information.
The 21-year-old died after being shot in the chest during a scuffle between rival gangs just after midnight on Tuesday in Links Drive. Police remain confident of finding the shooter.
Detectives yesterday interviewed quite a number of young people. Some of those we believe were involved in the incident. That, of course, is leading to us looking at other individuals.
Detectives have hosed down talk of gangs roaming the streets, but there's evidence to suggest otherwise. Irrawang High was locked down last Friday when police arrested 5 youths following a brawl outside. Just this morning, police were called to Hunter River High over a student with a knife. Port Stephens Council Youth Forum spokesman Jared Razik says multiple gangs are forming in the schoolyard.
It'll all start with 1 or 2 people, and then they'll invite their mates, and their mates will invite their mates, and it'll just get bigger and bigger. Then you'll have 2 different groups at different schools, and then it'll just escalate. So there'd be easy 5+, easy.
Groups of young people, some of them getting around after dark, and that is a bit of a concern in that it has led to this incident on this occasion.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The construction site at Charlestown Square is almost busier than the centre itself. 600 contractors are working to get the square ready for its official opening in October. Work on the $470 million redevelopment started more than 2 years ago, but according to the developer, it'll be worth the wait.
On completion, we'll be the largest regional shopping centre in the Hunter, about 35% larger than our competitor.
In fact, at 88,000 square metres, the centre will be more than double its current size of 37,000 square metres. There will be 280 stores and a cinema complex, which, with a little imagination, you can picture.
They're due to start their fit-out later this month, so they'll have 8 new screens, including 2 gold class, and about 1,300 seats.
At the heart of Charlestown Square is technology which, according to GPT, will reduce the building's environmental impact. It includes a cogeneration plant which will see the centre produce its own energy, as well as a solar plant which will power the air conditioning.
We set ourselves a target of improving our environmental efficiency by 30%.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News. 2 days out from the umpire's first whistle, the marquee event is taking shape. Dozens of tents are going up and food, lots of food, is being prepped. Fuel for 4,500 teenage netballers and their supporters during the 3-day State Age Championships.
It's wonderful for the city. The economic benefit to the city is immense, over about 1.3 million.
With an estimated 15,000 visitors in town for the event, every bed from Port Stephens to Lake Macquarie is booked. It's become so big, organisers have had to call in an extra venue.
There are 4 venues this year for the very first time because of the expanding numbers within the netball ranks.
And the event's timing couldn't have been better. The Sydney Swifts will be in town for the preliminary final of the Trans-Tasman Championship against New Zealand, and the aspiring Swifts will have no excuse to miss Sunday's game.
Netball New South Wales has had to bring in Plan B to accommodate that particular event, so the fixtures have had to be redone.
In a sure sign, professional netball isn't losing its pull. The game sold out in less than half an hour. That's 5,000 very keen netball fans. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
No, the last time something like this happened was about 16 years ago, and this is going to be much bigger, much better, and a lot more work involved.
Coach Rick Stone admits he's been a fan of Antonio Kaufusi since the forward's days in the Queensland Cup.
Probably his size and his speed and his skill, those sort of things really attracted to me early, and I've just followed his career for a while.
After 2 high-profile losses in the pre-season and some key injuries, the forward ranks at Newcastle have been looking increasingly thin. Stone is happy the club waited to sign a quality player, and he's keen to utilise Kaufusi's talents against the Sharks.
He'll get enough training sessions in to familiarise himself with the players and the way we do things, and I expect him to see him in the squad somewhere.
The softly spoken forward was a little more cautious following his first session.
I don't know the makeup of the team, but I'll be doing my best, training-wise to be selected, because the boys had a good couple wins, so I can't just come straight in. So we'll see how we go.
As for the rest of the squad, they'll enjoy the weekend off thanks to the bye, giving injured players such as Isaac de Gois more chance of being fit for next weekend.
James McManus is one who would have been a bit sore possibly to play this week, so the bye's been good for him, and Adam McDougall is probably similar. So, it's coming a good time.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.